trading without a system, without rules, without a plan, without a mentor is brutal. It's hard. That's why the majority of traders fail.
What have you found has been the hardest learning point for new traders when you are coaching them?
Quite frankly, trading success is in the preparation. Reading, learning new things, being open to understanding things like
What was your biggest hiccup or setback?
inconsistency, lack of self-confidence, a lack of rules, a lack of any kind of system. It's so vital.
How do you set goals when you're new in trading? How would you suggest setting goals?
Whatever you can do to not lose money is the key. And so if you're making money, you're doing it right.
Welcome back, everyone, to the show. Today, I have a very special guest. His name is Jerry Robinson. You probably heard him on a Chat with Traders episode many years back, but I wanted to bring him here so you guys can get his full story because I know a lot of you might not have heard of him. He's been trading for over 25 years, and he also really started to migrate towards a long-term and swing trading style. But we're going to go from the beginning, Jerry. So welcome to the show, my man.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Alex. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you joining me. So if you could just tell us, how'd you get started into this world of trading?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me on. I really appreciate your YouTube channel. I see you've done a lot of great work here. And thanks for mentioning that Chat with Traders. Gosh, that was 8 years ago. Chat with Traders, Aaron reached out to me and said, hey, I want to have you on Chat with Traders. I'm starting this brand new podcast. And it turned out I was the very first episode. I was really honored and really enjoyed that interview. So yeah, that's great that you brought that up. But yeah, I traded my very first stock in 1996. I was at my very first corporate job. I was about 20 years old, and my mother was a stockbroker. So I had kind of helped her study for the Series 7, which is like the license or the test you have to pass to become a stockbroker. And so I had this early interest in stocks. I thought it was pretty neat. I didn't fully understand it. And when I went to my very first corporate job, I was 20 years old, kind of a late bloomer. I didn't go to college until later. But anyway, I was at my first job, and I had a friend. We were in sales, and he was just doing great in trading. Now, remember, this is 1996, 1997. Kind of the dot-com bubble is starting to get frothy. It's starting to bubble. And so you could throw a dart and make money back then, so it kind of enticed me in, and I saw that he was doing well, and we were both, pretty good salespeople, so we were earning a good income, but he was really doing well because he was trading also. Of course, he didn't tell me about his losses. He probably only focused upon his gains, so I never heard about the bad stuff, but he really enticed me and kind of tempted me to look into it a little more, and so I did. And I traded my first stock in 1996. As I had mentioned, I had a very small account. I, was pretty broke. I had $700. I started my trading account, lost most of it pretty quickly. And then I'm going to tell you this, and I hope nobody ever does this, Alex. Please, if you're listening to me right now and you hear this, I am not telling you to do this, but this was one of the dumbest things I ever did, since we're talking about how I got started. And so I almost ran out of that $700. And I really wanted to do more, and I just didn't have any money, but I had a credit card. And so what I did was I took a cash advance on my credit card for like $2,000 or $3,000. And I thought, okay, I'll easily be able to make this back and pay it back. Of course, when you take a cash advance from a credit card, it's like 25% interest. and so anyway, I took the money and I started trading it, and pretty quickly I was out of that money. And so I think I lost almost all of it. And so that was a terrible lesson, because then I had to pay back the money plus this outrageous interest. So I'm telling you kind of the not so pretty story. And I think that's really the truth about trading. Anybody who tells you that they don't lose money, or they didn't lose money when they got started, or they knew everything when they got started, just turn and walk away. I mean, that's not how it works. Trading is brutal. It's hard. And it's still hard. I mean, even after I've been doing it for a long time, I'm still, in fact, more so, because the more you get beat up in the market, the more you get, you realize, man, you better know what you're doing here. You better not jump in. When I got started, though, Alex, I jumped in with both feet, didn't have a mentor, only had somebody telling me about how great it was, and I didn't hear any of the war stories. So I learned them all pretty quick. So and by the way, one last thing, Alex, is that when I did get started, I was day trading. So I would literally like take off from my job and then day trade. And so I would,
Oh, so
I
you
mean,
would lose
I'm
two
sitting,
incomes.
right, exactly. It was, I mean, just the wrong way in every way. So basically, people can learn how to not do it from me. How about
Yeah, that's great.
that?
I'm curious. After you took first off, you took out a cash advance, which is insane, and I agree with you. And then
and dumb, yeah, and very dumb.
yeah, absolutely. And then what happens next though? How long did it take you to did you eventually get your feet stable on day trading, or did you switch to swing trading? Like, can you tell me how that happened?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've seen over time is that many people just don't spend enough time doing things. What I mean by that, especially when you're young. I'm 47 now, so it's been a while. And whenever I was in my young 20s, though, one of the problems that I had, and I think a lot of young 20 somethings have, is that they don't give enough time. They don't spend enough time to really grow their skill or to really grow their idea or whatever it is. And so sometimes, you can kind of flop like a fish and kind of flip back and forth and say, oh, this doesn't work. I've tried it for 7 days and it doesn't work. Or I've tried it for
Mm.
7 months and it doesn't work. Well, with day trading, initially I saw uh, that I could make money, but I could also lose it. And so it was one of these things where I was trying to figure out how to plug the holes. Like one day I would trade and I would like double my money. And I would think, wow, this is, I can do this again. And then the next day I would go in with that same confidence and I would lose my money. And I said, what am I doing wrong? Like, so I think trading without a system, without rules, without a plan, without a mentor, I think most people are going to fail. And that's why the majority of traders fail. I mean, they just really do.
Mm.
So what I did was I kind of backed off and I really began to focus more on learning instead of just like constantly burning through money. I began to really try to learn, try to seek out a mentor. And then I continued to day trade, but very carefully and cautiously, lower accounts. I also learned options trading. I traded my first option in 2002, and that gives you more leverage and kind of less outlay initially. That made it easier for a guy like me who didn't have very much money, to kind of do a little better. But yeah, over time, as slowly as I got older and I had kids and got more busy with life, I really just kind of scaled back the time frame. So instead of doing day trading, which requires you to be in front of a computer all the time, and then stressed out about it and thinking about it, my life really lended itself more towards swing trading, where I could hold a position for say 1 to 10 days. And my goal with swing trading, for example, is to trade, hold a position 1 to 10 days, looking for about a 1 to 10% gain. So it's real simple. But even swing trading was sometimes a little difficult for my schedule because, again, busy running businesses and doing all kinds of crazy things. So then eventually today, where I stand today is I hardly trade at all. I mean, I'm a part-time position trader today. And what I've done more is gravitated towards part-time position trading and long-term investing. And I think everybody, all of my experiences have been so great. I mean, I look back and even though they weren't always like good at the time, I could learn from everything. And so I have a lot to teach people about the emotions and about allocation and about how much position sizing. I mean, I learned so much the hard way. I mean, I learned so many things the hard way. But today, what suits my schedule is part-time position trading and long-term investing. And so that's where I'm at today. But if I was a young 20-something, again, and didn't have all the responsibilities, I would certainly probably have a shorter time frame because it is fun. It can be exciting. But the other thing too is that day trading, for example, can really burn you out and really stress you out. So, but that's where I'm at today. Great question.
So
Thank you.
you mentioned 96 in 2002 you did an options trade,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm assuming you're still day trading between 96 and 2002, right? Or when did you
Yeah,
flip
on
to
and
swing
off.
trading?
Swing trading probably a little further, maybe like 2004 or so. I
Okay.
started learning about it. To me, trading was only day trading. I didn't know about position trading or swing trading. I didn't know what that was. All I knew was that you get up in the morning, you turn the computer on, the market's open, and you trade.
Yep.
And then you try to make money that day. Um, that works for some people. It works for some temperaments. Works for some people. But again, that it can be very stressful, and especially if you don't have an education or a system, boy, you just burn through cash.
Yep. How did you gain your education? And like, because you said you had to find a mentor. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't find them.
Tons of reading. Um, I was constantly in Barnes and Noble. I mean, I would go to Barnes and that's where I lived, at Barnes and Noble. Literally, I would go in there and I would read because I wanted to read the books, but I didn't want to buy them all. So I would just go in there and buy a coffee and sit there and just read the book in the cafe. And I would read through these books and learn and learn and learn. And to the point where I began to create my own rules. And it wasn't even until I started creating my own rules that I began to have anything that you would even call success. I mean, for a long time, it was just, yeah, I would have a great day. I could say, hey, look, I had this great day, but then you didn't want to see the next day because the next day I might have lost it all. So in other words, it was not consistent whatsoever. And it wasn't until I began to develop rules, and I began to get rules from reading really great books. One of the mentors that I had, he doesn't know me, I don't know him personally, but one of the mentors that really mentored me through his books was William J. O'Neill. I learned so much from William J. O'Neill. His book, I highly recommend, How to Make Money in Stocks. It's the orange cover, not the green one. The orange one I think is better. But How to Make Money in Stocks. Man, I read that book over and over and over, a highlighter, underlining. I looked at the charts, and then what I learned from him was to print out charts and learn technical analysis. And so I began to learn technical analysis. I didn't know anything when I got started. So, maybe 10 years later, I started focusing upon technical analysis, maybe a little less. But when I did, that really made a difference. And then what I would do is I'd print out charts of stocks that I wanted to trade, and I would just literally print them out at all different time frames. I'd fall asleep in my bed just like drawing on them. I mean, I wake up and I have charts on I did that for, more than a year. I mean, just really drilling down and trying to figure out how to read a chart. That changed everything. Whenever I learned how to read a chart and how to do technical analysis, it gave me great confidence. It's not perfect. It's not voodoo. You still need to know fundamental analysis to kind of know what stocks to focus on. But the technical analysis is a great way to figure out when to buy and when to sell. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not a slow learner, but I think in this case, I was kind of slow on the uptake because I was kind of coming from a place that I didn't know how it all
Yeah.
worked. So I had to learn everything the hard way. I didn't have somebody holding my hand the whole time. And those of you out there who have mentors, or you have some sort of leg up, that's wonderful for you. That's really what you need when you're getting started. And you also need to be careful about the pride. Sometimes people can, when they start trading, they really get proud of their success. I find that to be very fatal. It's very, very important to stay humble in this business.
Hey, we wouldn't be able to do these face-to-face interviews if it wasn't for our sponsor, Cobra Trading. So if you can just give them a few seconds of your time, we'd really appreciate it. Cobra Trading is the go-to broker for day traders and short sellers. And I'm not the only one saying this. In fact, Benzinga awarded Cobra Trading as the go-to broker for short selling. They have a heavy focus on direct market access order routing, so you have the fastest execution. They have some of the best locate prices and availability. They also have amazing customer service. I've experienced many different brokers, and it's why I use them every single day and why I'm proud to have them as our sponsor. Sign up now by clicking the Be the Trader referral link below and earn 1 free month of software with Cobra and 25% off all commissions. Now let's get back to the show. Absolutely. And I'm curious, speaking of that, because you just mentioned pride and stay humble, have you seen people kind of, because you've been in the industry for a long time, have you seen people kind of make it, if you will, and be in the industry for a while, be successful, be consistent, and then disappear?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I've coached, I can't tell you how many traders I've coached over the years. My heart is an educator. My heart's a teacher. I like to trade. I like to invest, but I love to sit down one-on-one with people and kind of learn where they're at and kind of feel and then identify with their issues and kind of help them because that's what I lacked. I didn't have that. One thing that I always teach our members and our students is the fact that it's so vital to have patience and to have discipline and to operate in wisdom. And the way I define wisdom is very, very important, I think, for those listening, is that wisdom is the application of properly apprehended knowledge. And what I mean by that is that, I had a lot of knowledge from the books that I was reading, but I may not be properly apprehending it. I might be reading it and then not really reading what it's saying because of filter in my head. Or it may be incorrect knowledge. It may be actually bad knowledge, and I'm ingesting it. So if you apply bad knowledge, well, then it's not really wisdom. And if you are applying knowledge that's not properly apprehended, well, then that's not wisdom either. So wisdom is the application of properly apprehended knowledge. And so we have to properly, and correct knowledge for that matter. And so that's really what we got to do. And we got to be patient. As I had mentioned to you earlier, I've seen more people kind of flunk out of trading as opposed to really kind of getting blown out. I mean, I've seen blowouts for sure, but most of them I see kind of flunk out in the fact that they just kind of think, well, I've done this for 7 months and it doesn't work. And I think that's sad, because everything in life takes a long time. And to me, this is anything good, takes a while. And with me, the people I've coached, I've seen, sometimes it takes years. This takes years to learn. But once you learn it, Alex, this is the neat thing about trading and investing for that matter, is that once you kind of learn it, you really, it's like riding a bike, like how it works. And so it gives you a skill set that you can always fall back on, and that's what I really appreciate about trading. And again, I don't do it nearly as much as I used to, but I still invest heavily. I'm a very heavy investor, but trading is, it takes a lot out of you, but it's fun and it's a great skill to learn.
What have you found has been the hardest learning point for new traders when you are coaching them and they're trying to learn how to do this? Like, do you have any idea of, is it something common between all the people you teach, or is it different for everyone?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple of things. First one would be that uncoachable. You got to be coachable. So when you're talking specifically about me sitting down with somebody, what do I see? Well, oftentimes people will come in maybe and they already think they know what's going on, and maybe they do, but they still have to be coachable, And so I would say being coachable is very, very important. And that, whether you're reading a book and being coachable or have a mentor and being you just got to have a coachable mindset where you can learn and not think that you know it all. It's very key.
Yep.
And then another thing would be, and I don't want to mention the patience thing again, because I've already mentioned that. That's certainly one of the things. Also, I think a hesitancy to understand that this is a business. If you open a business and you say, like I come to you, Alex, and I say, oh, hey, I'm going to start a business. He said, what are you going to sell? And you say, I'm going to sell everything. You'd be like, well, Walmart already does that, or who are your competitors? So you realize that if you're going to be successful in business, you got to kind of have a target. You got to have a niche. You got to figure out what you're doing. And I think that's another thing that we really add value to our students and members, is that we teach them the importance of really finding a niche. Whenever I really started to get the hang of things, I really focused in on just a couple of ETFs or a couple of stocks. I didn't try to trade everything that moved. And therefore I was able to learn that particular stock and that particular chart. So, today when I do part-time position trade, probably the most common thing that I will trade is the NASDAQ 100, QQQ. That's a market that I track, I follow. I can tell you what stocks are in it. I can tell you when a stock falls out of it. I can tell you when a new stock comes into it. That index, I understand that index. And so therefore I have an edge in that index because I know it. And I have charted it for a long time. And I know what happens when this happens in the morning or this happens in the afternoon. I just have a feel. It's hard to explain, but you kind of get your finger on the pulse of a single market. And then you kind of learn that market and you stay with that market. The problem is that many people will, when they trade, they're like, I'll trade anything that moves. Anything that moves, I'll just trade. Well, that's fine, but you may not know the intricacies of that market. You may not know what's going on. You may not know what's driving that market. You may not know why it's going up. That's dangerous. You might be hopping on and buying something that everybody's trying to, eventually dump. So the point is that I think avoiding the understanding of that you got to treat this like a business and actually have a niche market that you're going to focus on. The people that I've seen succeed, Alex, the best are the ones who really take it seriously, set aside office hours for what they're going to be doing with trading, and then they really focus in on a niche. They say, I don't care about every single sector. I don't care about every single industry. I care about this sector, this industry, or this ETF, or this stock. And then they just learn that stock. And quite frankly, you may say, well, I want to trade more than one stock. Well, that's fine. Start with one, though. Start with one to learn how to do it. And then you can kind of spread out. Over time, I've changed my niche. When I was trading earlier, say back like in 2005 or so, I really liked mining stocks. And so I kind of focused in on those. Later on, I really moved towards tech. And I've really been mainly a tech trader, since that time. But and NASDAQ 100 is the way I do it, because I don't like the single stock risk. As a trader, it can work in your advantage or it can also work against you. So the broad index ETFs can be really powerful. Using options on them can be very powerful. That's where I've fallen, and that's what I like to do. But a lot of people will just trade anything that moves, and that doesn't always work out.
What was your biggest hiccup or setback for you that really, kept you from finding somewhat success in your own trading?
Inconsistency would be one. Lack of self-confidence would be two. A lack of rules would be three. A lack of any kind of system would be four. I mean, as I began to build, as I began to create my rules, which, by the way, we offer for free on our website. You can, all of my rules, I just give them away. I mean, I'm not interested in selling my rules. I mean, the rules are what people need. And so once you have your set of rules, that becomes kind of like a guide for you so that you'll stay on track. And if you break your own rules, then you're really doing something bad. So you got to create your rules and focus on create a system of some kind. And then, and you can rely upon other people's system, but you better know how that system works, and you better fully understand it if you're going to use someone else's. And that's fine, you can. But yeah, having a sense of rules and a system, that and a consistency, and then keeping up psychology, which we haven't really even talked about. The psychology was always hard. I think I lacked a little bit of self-confidence whenever I was younger. And self-confidence, I've learned that over time. I'm no longer, lacking that today, but I think that also kind of played into it. So when I would lose money, I really took it hard. I would like, and I was like, I'm a terrible person, Alex, because I lost money, I'm a terrible person, or this proves that I can't do it. I really suck, I think, and then of course when I would make money, Alex, you're like, oh no, I'm taking everybody out for steak. Hey, I want to tell everybody what I did. So I was bragging when I would win. I was like, in my room weeping when I would lose. This is ridiculous. You're never gonna get ahead. You got to be like a brick wall, and it takes time to build that. You don't just like walk into the room of trading and make your first trade and then automatically have emotions that are fit for it. It takes you a while. You got to get beat up. You got to lose money. You got to pay your tuition on Wall Street, as they say. That's why I tell people that, you gotta give this time, and don't blow all your money in your first year. Like I always tell our members and students, look, keep that money close to you, paper trade if you need to, even though it's not the same. You've got to get the hang of this. You've got to get a system. You've got to get rules, and you've got to learn to control your emotions. I hope that answers the question. But yeah, those are the problems that I had.
You also mentioned treat this like a business,
Mm-hmm.
and people are probably asking themselves, okay, well, should I set goals? And because business, they're going to have goals. Like, how do you set goals when you're new in trading as a business, like business goals? Like, how would you suggest setting goals?
Yeah, maybe a good goal would be to, spend so many hours per week or per month studying, reading. Quite frankly, most of trading success is in the preparation, so reading, learning new things, being open to understanding things like options. I remember I had a big hesitancy towards options. I thought, I can't understand these. These are for smarter people. I don't know what I'm doing. But when I kind of overcame that, I was like, I like these. These make sense. I understand how they work. And so I think there can be a hesitancy, and a lot of it's psychological. But when it comes to running a business, what are some of the goals? Reading, learning, educating yourself, And then, like I said, this may be old school, but printing, everybody's got to probably a printer, print out a chart, get a pencil, old school, and just draw on that chart. Try to figure out what that chart is saying, and develop a niche. Figure out what you're going to focus upon. If I ever ask a trader, "Hey, what's your niche?" and they're like, "What?" I know they don't know what's going on. Every successful trader that I've ever known has a niche. They know that they have to have a niche. They don't just wake up and trade anything. They have to have a niche, and sometimes your niche ain't working. You need to know, is your niche in a downtrend? Okay, well, you may not want to trade it, or you may want to think of like buying puts or whatever. But whenever you're in a situation where the niche is in an uptrend, well, hey, you want to be there. You want to be there for that uptrend. So I think thinking in terms of that and realizing that you really are running a business, you got to take this seriously. You can't just kind of wing it and expect success.
What about the guy who has some success right now? He's trading, he's doing pretty decent, he's making some profits year after year,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not, blowing it up, if you will, but he
Mm-hmm.
wants to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you suggest people set monetary goals, or if they've already know what they're doing, like how would you set those type of goals? Because now they
Yeah.
already know what they're doing somewhat, just curious.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's danger there. I think there's a danger there. I would say if you've got a system and you're consistently making profits, boy, you are like way ahead. And so before you think of like I got to tweak this, you want to realize, man, I need to set this in stone. Like if you've got a
Mm,
consistent thing going, instead of trying to say, well, I need to make more, the first thing should be like, what am I doing right? And what am I avoiding that's wrong that's making this happen? So kind of dissecting why it's working would probably be the very first thing to do. And then from there, greed can take over, and this can destroy even well-laid habits. And so you could kind of get a consistent system going,
mm.
but then you can look and see your friend and say, well, he's making more. Or look on social media, even worse, and see all these people saying, hey, I made all this money today. And so you're like, well, I guess I'm not a very good trader because I'm making consistent profits, but they're not that great. They're not as good as my friends. I would say if you're consistently making money in the markets through trading, like consistently every year, you're like way ahead. You're way ahead. And if you're wanting to ramp that up, the way to ramp it up would be to really dissect what you're doing right and be very cautious, because I've seen that blow up accounts. I've seen people try to take it to the next level, and you got to
Yep.
really ask yourself, why am I wanting this? Am I wanting it because I want to? Is there a great why for this, or is there a kind of a negative why for this? And so, yeah, I think that's probably how to approach it.
That's interesting. I'm glad you said that because it sounds like you're more lenient on the side of caution and
Yes. Oh, yes.
evaluation, even
Yes.
if you're doing well, because you just need
Yes.
to protect yourself. It just sounds like it's all about protecting yourself.
It's all about defense and trading, quite frankly. That's what I've learned after 2.5 decades or more, is that you have to protect the capital. I remember when people would say rule number one is don't lose money. Second rule is remember rule number one. And I used to think, oh, they don't know. But now it's like, oh, wow, that's like the most important rule. Like, don't lose money. And and after losing money, you realize the wisdom of that. So yeah, whatever you can do to not lose money is the key. And so if you're making money, you're doing it right. I mean, that's
Yep.
literally what trading is. And so if you're wanting to push it, you want to push it real carefully, because you don't want to break it if you're already doing it right.
Mm. And you brought up Twitter and how people are always like showing their best work or the best
Yeah,
trades and
yeah.
never
All the
really,
time.
sharing the whole picture.
Right.
For those who are not aware of that, because they're following on Twitter, a lot of people are on Twitter and they're like, oh man, I love these traders. They like never lose. Like, could you paint the reality of like how trading really is? Because everyone does see just the winners.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's just put the statistics out. I mean, I think it's like 90+% of traders fail. They fail for a variety of reasons, usually a lack of patience. They just can't stick around, or they run out of money, or they don't have a system or rules. We've already gone over those things. But the reality is that most people just lose money. This is not an easy way to make money. I mean, it
Mm-mm.
looks easy. And when you get on social media, it seems like it might be easy, but this is the furthest thing from easy that you can imagine. I mean, when you sit down to trade, on the other side of that screen, you are facing some of the brightest, and not just the brightest, the most vicious people in the world. who are going to eat you for lunch. They're just waiting for you. They see you coming. They see you coming with your 100 shares. They see you coming with your $5,000. They're ready to take it from you. It's going to be a wonderful way to make money. And so you got to realize that you are, you are going to get eaten up and spit out if you don't prepare yourself. It is not a game that is for the weak at heart. And so trading is a very, very difficult thing to understand, to learn. It takes years to really become consistent. If anybody tells you that they had consistent their first year, they were purely lucky, or they had years of preparation for that first year, one of the two. But if they just like walk off the street and start trading, they're going to lose their shirt. It's almost entirely guaranteed. So, newbies, and we have many of them in 2020, whenever we had the pandemic and people were like, hey, I got money. And I'm staying home, so I'm going to trade. And there were a ton of people who came in, and I've coached many of them, and they've kind of learned the hard way that it's not as easy as it looks, So we try to keep that in front of people, on our social media or our website. We try to be very realistic with people and help them because, I care about people. I want to teach people. I don't want them to get burned. And sadly, I see a lot of that online. I see people who are kind of abusing people's trust by, like you said, only showing the good stuff. And there is good stuff, but that's not all there is, for sure.
Wait, what would you say before we start to wrap this up? What would you say is a red flag, or I guess like more of a red flag for a new student who's looking for a mentor, and they're like, this might be a red flag for you to not look at that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, let me think about that. That's kind of tough because it's really subjective. I mean, I guess there's a few obvious things like if someone is not forthcoming about any losses. I mean, I think that if they're like, for example, here on our website, followthemoney.com, we actually we have a trading system. And so we provide transparency on how the system works. And if the system doesn't work, well, we're going to throw the system away. Fortunately, the system works very well for swing trading and position trading. And we're transparent about how the system works, and we can so whether you're a member here or not, you can go and you can see all of the trades we've suggested, and you can see how they've done. And so I think a hesitancy to have any kind of transparency is one. I think also a hesitancy to talk about mistakes is two. And I would also say that anyone who is flashing their net worth is like an instant red flag. I mean, instant for me. Like I don't like that. I don't like seeing people because, quite frankly, I think not only is it the wrong way to sell trading, because trading is not really that. Secondly, it's almost like they're trying to hook your greed. Like everybody has an element of greed inside. And it's like they're almost trying to hook that. They're not really trying to educate you. They're not really trying to help you learn how the whole thing works. They're just trying to hook your greed and draw you in and get your money and then spit you out and move on to the next victim. So I think it's, it needs to be a lot more focused upon education, taking your time, learning to walk before you run, and avoiding flashing your money or talking about how much money you make. I think that can be dangerous to people. People want to hear it, but I don't usually talk about it because I think it draws the wrong kind of people. We like to draw the kind of people who are like, hey, I'm serious. I want to learn how to do this, and I got years. Okay, well, we can work together,
Yep.
But if you're wanting to make money overnight, we can't help you. I mean, you're gonna have to learn, and it's gonna take time.
I love that you said that. And I know you mentioned a couple of times here, but I know people are going to have questions like, what is the website? Where can I learn more about you, Jerry?
Yep.
Could you tell them real quick where they can find out more information about you?
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody who wants to learn, I mean, this is a great place to go. Follow the money. Followthemoney.com is the website. And when they go there, many of them have probably never been there before. When they get there, as soon as they get there, they'll see a place where they can enter their name and email. And if they do that, we automatically send them our trading rules. I send them a video that covers lessons from the greatest traders of all time. I mean, they get tons of free stuff. And then we also send them a lot of free stuff. But we also have memberships where they can join and they can get access to our trading system. They can see what we do. I put out a daily swing trading idea every day complete with a entry price and a suggested stop loss. And then we also have ongoing video coachings every week. I mean, we provide a ton of education to folks that are serious. You got to be serious. And you've got to also have a longer term mindset. I say, I'm here. I really want to learn a skill. I really want to learn a trade. Trading is a trade that you can learn. It's a skill that you can learn. And we love teaching it. But followthemoney.com is the place to go. And of course, we're on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and all of that too. They can find all those links on our website.
Perfect. And I'll provide some of those links below to your social media so that way they can easily find you guys. But again, Jerry, hey man, I really appreciate you coming in today and just sharing the real perspective for over 20 plus years of your experience and giving people just a different reality check on what to expect when they come into this world. So thanks again, brother.
Absolutely. Great time to be here. Appreciate your work there, Alex. Thank you.